had this today, Drapes, as you saw. Who is the worst player in this picture? And he's got Curry, D-Wade, MJ, Kobe, Magic, LeBron, KD, Tim Duncan, Shaq, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Who is the worst player in this picture? I'm wondering if there's a consensus. That's like one of those third rail questions. Be careful. Be careful. I know my most honest answer would irritate a lot of people, so I'm hanging on there. Do you have an answer off the top of your head?
I think it's between one of two players. I think all the guys listed other than these two players are top 10 players of all time. I would say either D-Wade or Kevin Durant.
Yeah, let's see if there's a consensus. Nice enough to join us once again. Drape's buddy, Sixers beat writer with the Philly Inquirer, Keith Pompey. How are you today, Keith?
Hey, I'm doing well. How y'all doing?
We're doing great. Thank you so much for your time. Before we get to anything involving potential acquisitions for the Kings who may have played for the Sixers, we got to ask you, the picture that you tweeted today of the 10 greats asking who's the worst player, is there anything approaching a consensus on that, Keith?
It's like, it's funny. I would say like 90% of the people are saying Wade, and then 10% are saying KD.
Yeah.
That's about right. I think that's about right. Here's the thing, Keith. What do you say on that? Because I could make an argument that D-Wade might even be better than Kevin Durant. Like, D-Wade, people forget prime D-Wade.
I know.
He was the reason the team won a championship. What do you think, Keith?
You know what? Wow, that's a good argument because, like, on the surface, you will say D-Wade, right?
Right.
But you're actually right. He's the reason why they won. Now I know with LeBron gets the credit for the other ones, but D-Wade was the man. I mean, D-Wade was the guy, and I think KD, if he would have stayed in Oklahoma City, and if he would have led them to a championship, I think he would. But up in Northern California, everybody's thinking about he was kind of like the Scottie Pippen to Steph's Michael Jordan. You understand?
Right. Yeah.
So I you know what? For that, I will have to say that D-Wade's above him because of that. In my opinion.
There you go.
But he still got most of the votes that you received today, right?
Oh yeah, they killing. Yeah, they killing D-Wade. Yeah, they killing.
All right, as we look ahead to the offseason and the Kings, I want to ask you about De'Anthony Melton. Health-wise, how is he? Do you think the Sixers keep him? Do you think he'd be fit with the Kings? What do you make of that whole situation, Keith?
The thing about D-Melt, I think a lot of it has to do with, his back. Like, I do feel like if he, I feel like his back situation is going to be the main thing. Now, let's say if he's healthy. I don't know if the Sixers will keep him. I mean, and now I think that they could, but at the same time, the Sixers are trying to go star hunting, then they're trying to put a roster together. So I feel like, other teams out there are going to want to give D. Melton more money than what the Sixers are going to be willing to give him. Right now their priority is Nico Batum and a couple other guys. So I feel like, Melton is a great player for the Sixers for his role. But I feel just like, he might price himself out, which is a good thing for him, to go back to California and everything like that. But he's a good player, man. He's a good player for what the Sixers needed.
Yeah, and Keith, I know that, when you look at the Sixers, they got the big names, the Maxies, the Embiids. But I look at when De'Anthony Melton actually played. When he played, they were 25-13. When he didn't play, they were 22-23. Does he have more value to a team than just the stats would indicate, you think?
Yeah, he does. Now, he's a little bit undersized, and there was one play that, the haters are going to point out where he was guarding Jason Tatum. He's 6'2". Jason Tatum is, 6'10".
Yeah.
So Jason Tatum shot the ball over him. But the stat that really sticks out to me is not just when he plays. It was like one point when he was in the starting lineup with him, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Nico Batum, and Tyrese Maxey. That team was 10-1. That team beat, and I know the team is struggling, but that team also beat the Denver Nuggets. They beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they beat the Charlotte Hornets by 50. Right, by 50. Like, he was just a great defender, and not only that, he can knock down shots. He can do a little bit of ball handling. But before he was injured, he was second in the league in steals, and he was leading the NBA in deflection. So he's on the small stature side, but he has really long arms, and he's quick. And the thing that a lot of people don't know, he's also a tough guy too. The thing that a lot of people don't know, that, you know, his best sport is football. Like, he was a standout football player who just so happened to love basketball. At the end, he wanted to play basketball. So this isn't even his best sport, but that just tells you how athletic he is. It should tell you his mindset. You know what I mean? He's he's a good guy, tough-minded kid, smart kid, but, you know, he meant a lot to the Sixers, but he was like the unsung hero. And something else people forget, Tyrese Maxey was benched, not this year, but last year under Doc. They felt like Maxey was struggling a little bit, and who was started in his place? De'Anthony Melton. So, yeah, he's extremely valuable, but I just feel like, you know, he'll probably want more than $8 million or what have you, and I feel like he'll get more money from other teams in free agency.
That's Keith Pompey from the Philly Inquirer. Yeah, we're assuming that Malik is probably leaving, and if he does, we don't know that for a fact yet, but if he does, you know, I think De'Anthony Melton would be a nice fit for the Kings. I know he has experience, you know, being a sixth man with Memphis as well. But Keith, can you tell us whether you think it doesn't look like one of the destinations we expect Malik to go to, but would the Sixers have interest in Malik Monk as far as you can tell?
Oh yeah, they would. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, now again, I'm not hearing, like, it's not here to say, oh, Pompey says they're going to get him or anything like that. But I think the thing that he brings to the table, and, you know, right now the 76ers, let's face it, they only have 3 guys under contract. I mean, they're going to have 4 when you talk about Tyrese Maxey, but they need to fill out a roster. And if you can get a guy like Malik, you know, coming off the bench, doing the things that he did in Sacramento, that will help out tremendously. You know, I think that he's could be a great asset, you know, and then, you know, I guess it'll be one of those things where I don't think he'll break the bank to go to Philadelphia. But at the same time, if they could get him for the right price, you know, I feel like that he would be a great addition for him, you know, for the things that he's done.
Keith Pompey joining us.
Don't like the sound of that.
Yeah. And Keith, when you look at this Sixers roster, you mentioned 3 guys under contract. Is Tobias Harris definitely gone? What happens with Oubre? I look at this Sixers roster and a couple of guys that, you know, could help the Kings. Not saying I necessarily want Tobias here in Sacramento, but how much do you think they will shake it up?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a completely different team. I think that Kelly Oubre will ultimately come back. You know, I feel like, you know, the thing is, the one thing about Kelly, you know, Kelly, when he signed with the Sixers, it wasn't because he really wanted to come to Philadelphia. It was because they were the only team that really offered him. And I feel like there were certain instances, and I love Kelly, great guy, but I feel like there's 3 things that happened during the season. The one thing was the bicycle incident, right, where he got hit on a bike and nobody knew who hit him.
Right.
The second thing was when he was like, you know, F you, your mama, your grandmother, your this and that. And then he wrecked his Lamborghini after game 3 or game 2 in New York. So when you have those 3 incidents, I think that a team outside of the Sixers are probably saying to themselves, did this guy really change? Is he still questionable? So I think with that being said, it may be a couple of teams that are scared to go after him. So I think he'll stay with the Sixers for that, right? Tobias Harris, you know, the problem with Tobias was a good player. He just, in the eyes of the fans and many other people, they felt like, you know, for maybe no fault of his own or what have you, he just didn't live up to the salary. You know, he was paid as if he was an all-star, and he wasn't. And you can argue that he didn't have that role. So with that being said, I feel like that after he failed to score a point in game 6, that the fan base they don't want him back, and the Sixers don't want to bring him back in that type of environment. And I think Tobias wants to make money, and I don't think the Sixers are willing to give him, that $40 million that he made this year. So with that all being said, I kind of see, Tobias going elsewhere. And the thing is going to be tricky because, once you start making that type of money and you feel like you're 30 years old, you feel like your next contract should be bigger. And so I'm just trying to figure out if there's going to be a team willing to give him that, or if he's going to have to take less. But he's trying to get, similar type of money. So that's going to be the tough thing.
I want to switch gears with our guy Keith Pompey. Philadelphia Inquirer covers the Sixers. Want to talk a little football with you, Keith?
Why?
No, because Keith is from Philly. He's from Philly. Keith is Philly born and bred, but he's a New York Giants fan. Now that we, meaning my Eagles, got Saquon, how you feeling about that? You ready to come? You ready to come on to the Eagles side now, Keith?
Nah, you're an Eagles fan now?
What do you mean?
I think you were a Cowboys
dog,
fan.
that's when I was like 8 years old,
Yeah.
Keith. I'm a grown man, dog. I'm supporting the Eagles
It's
right
hard to
now.
keep track, Keith. It's hard to keep track.
He's still a front runner.
No. I'm Philly till I die, Keith. 72nd and Ogons, big fella.
When next year, he's going to be like, I'm a Seahawks fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Seahawks fan.
Point goes to Keith Pompey.
Oh, that's messed up, Keith. But how you feel about my boy Saquon coming to Philly?
You know what? I'm happy for him. It's one of those things, like a lot of people thought I was going to be upset. The thing is, Saquon is a guy that you're a little leery because of the injury history. But at the same time, the reason why I'm happy for him because, I felt like he should have been paid by the Giants the last 2 years. I mean, they went out there and they paid Daniel Jones, they paid the offensive line, but they didn't pay Saquon. And as injury and banged up as he is, he was by far the best player on the team. So now the people in New York and the Giants are upset because they weren't even going to resign him. But they're saying, but why did you go to the Eagles? And I'm like, well, why would you care? Like, you didn't want to pay him. You know what I mean? Like another team's trash is another team's trash. One team's trash is another team's treasure.
Yep.
So I wish him the best of luck. But at the same time, that's not swaying me. I mean, I felt like Swifty was the running back Swift was a pretty good back, and you could have got him for cheaper.
Yeah. Keith Pompey, thank you for your insight.
Fly,
Thank you for your
Eagles,
time.
fly.
And thank you for
On the way
keeping
to
Kyle Draper in line.
victory.
We appreciate it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy.
72nd and Ogons, Keith. Go there, big fella. Go to Pagano's on Ogons to get your cheesesteak.
We'll see you, Keith.
All right, Keith. All right, baby. Be
Thank
safe.
you very much. He doesn't take any from you, does he?
Nah, that's
He knows
why
you too
him and I
well.
go back like 15, 20 years, man. And how could he live in Philly, be a Philly guy, and a Giants fan?
Strange, isn't it?
Yeah, I could see as a kid, like I was liking the Cowboys. But when you're a grown up, you got to support the local team, baby.
10 trade stories that will dominate the NBA offseason. Will the Kings be involved in any of them?